The recording guys will only close over the doors if it gets really noisy out in that road because they need to watch for the noise for the recording. But it will only be as a last resort if it gets really, if they're not getting a good signal coming up there. So hopefully we'll be able to leave those doors open. Hello.
Watch it. You made it. Well done.
I should imagine some people haven't made it, to be honest. No, I didn't go to the M74 because he told me that.
Was that for the tag testing?
This was for the Festival of Heraldry in St Giles Cathedral back in December.
You have the patience of Mother Teresa.
I wish I did, Peter.
Now, despite having come in, those mine there, are they? I think I'm just putting those down. They're going to give me those over.
What's this?
Yes. Now, what time is it?
No, hang on.
4 minutes. Now, Peter, the victories,
Yes.
that's an old one. That's
All right.
That's the new one.
Fine.
Oh, there.
Your notes, Peter. How lovely to see you. How lovely to see you here at conference. How lovely to see you. Right, no, Bill, these are mine.
These are yours.
Aye.
Right, look, you have that one then, but that's not the right of victories on it. Wait a minute. Alan, could you give Peter just that front, because that's all it's
Aye,
changed.
right, that's all that's changed. Will you take that then,
go.
Peter? Right, okay.
So because you're reading the obits.
Now tell me, when it comes to...
Alan, I've got that page.
Right, okay, thank you. When it comes to...
Yeah, but have you got the new ones on it, Peter?
Got the new ones on it.
That's the new one. That's the new one.
Just, I don't need it, Peter. You keep it, right?
We've got a copy here. Anyway.
Aye, right. So when it comes to appointment, election of convener, where's the bit of the president? I've just gone past that.
No,
Confirmation of office, but is this one here?
Right, okay,
So I read out President Neil McNair.
Yep.
Is it at that point that I then go?
No.
Okay.
That's
So I read out all of
right,
these.
yep. So officially they become president from
Selected by acclamation because no one else has stood for. little shindig, I suppose I'm going to call it, of the Robert Burns World Federation. You're most welcome here, and I know that there are some people who have come from far and wide, and I'm going to introduce just a couple of them. The first one I'm going to introduce is Paul Kennedy. Paul Kennedy, stand up please, Paul. Paul is the current president of the Robert Burns Association of North America, and he is on the board of RBWF as the director for the US, and he is a past president of the South Jersey Celtic Society. I also want to introduce Carlos Oliveira Santos, Professor. Big round of applause. Carlos has come all the way from Cascais in Portugal. Portugal, believe it or not, is the country which currently has the newest member club of the Robert Burns World Federation. And if I am not mistaken, the newest Burns club in the world.
Although I'm going to be 70 next week.
You don't look a day over 69. Can I also welcome all the way from Winnipeg, Colin Harris, past president of Urbana, past president of Winnipeg Burns Club. And we also have members from, well, let's just say England. We've got people here from Yorkshire. Thank you very much for the marvellous time we had in Yorkshire at the ball. And we have from the Burns Club of London, we have the current president, John McShane, here. So a big round of applause for our English visitors. Say that again?
You got one from Ghana.
So he's come over. I forgot all about you. Ghana. Do you know what? I still think of you as Canadian. I still think of you as Canadian. Have we got anyone else from abroad?
Alan.
Who have we got?
We've got Leo from
Leo. Leo, I didn't even see you there. Leo's also come from South Jersey. Who else? Stand up if you've come from abroad. Stand up, come on. All the way, look at that, all the way from Australia. Fantastic. You're all most welcome. Oh, I didn't even see you, all the way from Canada, from Alberta. Thank you so much. You are so welcome here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open this meeting by reciting, I'm not going to sing, I'm going to recite my two favourite verses of Robert Burns. My two favourite verses. But Mousie, thou art know thy lane in proving forceps may be vain. The best laid schemes are mice, and men, gang after glee. And lears naught but grief and pain for promised joy. Still, thou art blessed compared with me. The present only toucheth thee, but I backward cast my eon prospects the rear, and forward, though I canna see, I guess and fear. Ladies and gentlemen, I think if Robert Burns was alive today, I think he'd be looking at the world and he'd be saying exactly the same thing. Thank you. Do you want to read the apologies, or shall I do it? Okay. See if you get that. We have apologies this evening from James Waite, Murray Halliday, Alex and May Crawley, Les Strachan, Ronnie Byrne and Walter Watson. Do we have any other apologies? Oh, we do have. Bobby Kane and Margaret, is that Anderson? Oh, Anderson.
And Raymond Jack.
And Raymond Jack. Do we have any other apologies?
Jim Henderson, who's the
Burns Club of London, Jim Henderson.
London was supposed to be here, can't make it.
Thank
All
you.
of a sudden they had a
Please pass on our best to Jim. In that case, with no other apologies, in accordance with the Companies Act of 2006, and due notice having been served to all members of the meeting, the annual general meeting of the Robert Burns World Federation is now called to order. As every year it comes about, we have obituaries to be read out, and I will now pass that sad duty on to our junior Vice President, Peter Pringle.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sure you can all hear me. I don't need a microphone. Yes, it's very sad when we have a passing of friends, Burnsians, colleagues, etc., when they're no longer with us. Although they're no longer with us, they're in our hearts. They'll always stay with us together. So what I'd like to do, if I could read out their names, and at the end I would ask everybody to stand, and if we could observe a minute's silence, if that is okay with conference. Alex Tyrrell, the Robert Burns Club of Melbourne. George Murdoch, Trinette, 25 Burns Club. Kay Blair, member of the Robert Burns World Federation Schools Committee and the Lanarkshire Association and Larkhall Burns Club. Jim Hunter, past president of Stirling Clacks Association. Frank Shaw, Burns Club of Atlanta. Margaret Hunter, Stirling Clacks Association. George Porter Much, France. Ina Dawson, Niagara Falls Burns Club. And Bill Dawson, past president of the Niagara Falls Burns Club. Mary Bell, former treasurer of Rabana. And John Kearney, whom we all know. We have Bill Hood of Kilbride Burns Club. Francis Taylor of Kilbride Burns Club. And John Reardon, Kilbride Burns Club. Dick Duncan, Cumbernauld District. And last but not least, George Stevenson, Allenton Jolly Beggars. Could I ask conference please to stand for a minute, and we shall observe a silence in respect.
Before the minute's silence, do we have any other members' names to be added to that list? Yes.
Mary Kelly, past president of Sandyford Burns Club.
Thank you.
Tom MacGyver, South Jersey Celtic Society co-founder.
Then I would ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to observe a minute's silence for departed merit. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. The minutes of the annual general meeting 2023 have been sent. Have you all had a chance to read them, digest them, and if so, are there any matters arising? There being no matters arising, I would then ask for a proposer and a seconder for the minutes of the annual general meeting 2022. Proposed by Mark and seconded by Beth. Mark Sherland and Beth Kerr. We will move on now to reports. And the first report, the finance report from Ken Dalgleish, has been published. Are there any additions to that? Yeah, would you like to come in? At the end of these additions, I shall ask for any questions. Ken.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. And a warm welcome to everyone at conference, and if you're viewing in from overseas, particularly a warm welcome to you too. I thought it would be useful just to give you some further clarification. It's not very much, Mr. President, don't worry, it's not going to be a 10-minute speech or anything. You'll note the eagle-eyed amongst you, and I'm sure there's lots of people who have looked at the financial accounts. If you haven't, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but it would be nice to think that all the effort that goes into doing the accounts, that you actually look at it to understand what's going on. So we just about broke even. I say just about because accountants like myself usually round up if you've got an odd number, and if you round up then we broke even. But it was a very, very small loss of £300, but it's much better to call it a deficit because we're not a trading organisation, we're a membership organisation. Technically we don't need to make money, but it's nice to break even, and it's even better to create funds that we can then reinvest in the projects that we want to do in the future. We did spend some money from our restricted funds, and that restricted fund, if you recall, is to do with the Lifelong Learning Centre. It was a donation by Sir Boyd Tunnock, and when you take money away from the restricted funds and you don't add into restricted funds, then you create a deficit automatically, and the bulk of the deficit was in that area. So there's nothing too much to worry about, because in our unrestricted funds, which really runs the Federation, we made a small surplus. The spending in the Lifelong Learning Centre really camouflages the tremendous work that volunteers have put into bringing this huge asset to its present improved style. If we were spending real money on it and not just their time, then it would be quite challenging to stand up here and talk about us breaking even. That's how good the volunteer work is. So I would really urge you, if you get the chance, to go to Kilmarnock to have a look at what's been achieved. There's more to come, but the building's looking great. It's a huge facility for the local community as much as anything else, and I know it's warmly respected by the local council and others who have begun to use the premises. On our unrestricted funds, now this is where we do spend the bulk of our funds. You will note again our break-even result. Income and expenditure increased proportionately from the prior year, due mainly to the return of the annual conference, which was here, of course, last year. This event ended up returning a surplus of around £4,500. So that's the biggest project the Federation gets involved in, is the annual conference. It's a great occasion to get together and to share ideas, etc. And to come away having made a small surplus in quite challenging times is really good. Talking of challenging times, it's still challenging times. So we've had all the drama of the increased energy bills. We've had increased costs generally across office administration, but in no way at the level we may have expected for us, because we've worked really hard to make sure that we are not inflation proof, but Margaret Ann's done a terrific job on things like how much we pay for our electricity, how much we have some small income comes in from people who use the offices, and indeed we rent the offices out to 2 individual small companies, and we get some rental income from that. Margaret Ann runs a tight ship, and it is this attention to detail which makes budgeting so much easier when we come to prepare the annual budget on the board. It's great to see this annual meeting being broadcast globally. Last year's costs of around 5,500 was covered by donations from a wide range of supporters, and our huge thanks go to all of them and to Peter for making all of that happen. Thank you to all the board members for their support of our project budgeting process, which I harp on about at every single board meeting, but they all know it off by heart, but it is reassuring that they do take part in that planning process. And this helps avoid overspending and protects our funds so that we can have the essential spend that is so necessary to run the business. However, the clubs, associations and Burns-related organisations are where the true heart of the Burns culture and integrity really lies. RBWF needs all of you, so I want to put in my penny's worth right at the start of conference to ask you to keep up the great work that you do in your clubs and organisations. Share ideas, try new things. We're trying new things at Federation to see what works, and we've got good dexterity, and when you've got dexterity you can move around ideas and share things across the board. Burns valued and respected change. He talks about change in many of his poems, and he would have supported RBWF and all of you in all of your endeavours. So I am aware that this is your opportunity. I just wanted to make it quite clear that we are in a good situation. The bank balances are good. They're the best they've been for the last 10 years. They're steady. It's a well-run organisation. We keep ahead of costs as much as we can so that we're not affected by the inflation curve that's still with us. So I'm happy to take, if there's any questions at all, in any way connected to spending or what we're doing in the future, please just ask.
Anyone have any questions for Ken? Seems you've got off lightly, Ken.
I'm not sure if my track record's going to keep up with this. No question.
On behalf of the Federation, can I thank you for all the work that you have done. The next item on the agenda is the President's Report. The President's Report was published and sent out to you all. I don't have really many additions to it except to really fill you in on what happened. I actually sent the original report, I think, from Glasgow Airport as I was flying out to Australia. Just want to fill you in on the fact that Australia was great. It was magic. There is a really vibrant Scottish community in Australia, and they were really, really appreciative that the president of the Robert Burns World Federation had come out to take part in their Tartan Festival, which goes through a couple of weeks in July. I was so impressed with them that when I returned home, I had a meeting with my MSP, who I know sits with Angus Robertson, the Culture Secretary, and speaks to Angus Robertson about various different ways of getting the diaspora around the world engaged in Scotland. So I basically gave him a rundown of what happened in Australia. He then had spoken to Angus Robertson, and the Scottish Government now are going to support a Tartan Day in Australia, the same sort of Tartan Day as they do in the US, in New York, but probably in the same way as they did when that started 25 years ago, on a smaller scale, but with the idea of that moving up. We really got some great interest in Burns, and I have spoken to the people who will be running it from the Australian side and said to them that I hope they realise that Robert Burns must be at the centre of their Tartan Day celebrations, and of course they did, and two of them immediately then joined the Burns Club of Melbourne. So I was quite delighted with that. I have to thank John Menzies, or as I kept calling him, John Mingus, who is our Pacific Rim director, for all his hospitality. It was really super, and Neil, they're looking forward to you coming out next year. Are there any questions with regard to the President's Report? going to be a quick AGM. Thank you very much. Now we move on to administration. Margaret Ann.
My report is just as published unless anyone has any questions. I don't have any additions to what was written in the report. Seems we're all getting off lightly. Thank you.
Literature. We had last year elected Clark McGinn to the head of the literature subcommittee. Clark just had too much going on in his life and has had to pull back from it. So the literature committee hasn't met. No, the literature committee hasn't met since Clark did so. We will be announcing, well, it's already in here anyway, that Peter will be taking over as the head of the literature committee later on in this meeting. But if there are any questions about literature, then perhaps Peter might be able to answer them, or I'll have a go. Good. Then we move on. Heritage. John Hannah's Heritage Report has been published. There are no additions to that. Are there any questions? This is a dream. Dream come true. Okay.
It's too warm, I think.
I think that's what it is, too warm. Okay, our schools convener, Beth Kerr. Beth has published her report, but I do know that Beth does have some additions to that report. Beth, would you like to come out and make your announcements?
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's just a couple of announcements regarding the school's work going forward for the next year. The title for the International Essay Competition for 2023-2024 will be Should Old Acquaintance Be Forgot? Pupils are to discuss how Robert Burns' past shaped his future life, and I would encourage all Burnsians from around the world to contact the local schools and send entries to myself for this competition. The details will be on the website. I'm delighted to be able to announce that Clydeview Academy, Gourock, have offered a free let for our festivals next year. The secondary festival will be on Saturday, the 23rd of March 2024. And this will be followed with the primary festival on the 1st of June 2024. Planning for both these dates will be started shortly, and I'm looking forward to working with the local Burns clubs. However, if anybody would like to offer support for these events, could I ask that you contact myself or Margaret Ann, and I'll put you into the duty list. And that's all. Any questions?
Do we have any questions for Beth?
Could I just say...
Could we wait till the mic comes? The TV crew said, wait till the mic comes and they can hear your voice.
Not on.
Just want to remember there has been another finding in the last few weeks, and I know Jane has always asked me about opportunities for the young Burnsians. And traditionally the young Burnsians went to the West Sound Burns Supper in Glasgow. However, communication with West Sound has brought about that this Burns Supper will probably, they're 98% sure, that will not be going forward in the future. They are down to 6 members of staff, sadly, and they do not have financial support for that. I've spoke to West Sound with the option of possibly having the young Burnsians recorded and if they had an opportunity in a radio programme or something, maybe around Burns Times, to maybe have the young Burnsians on the radio. And that is something that I will look forward to and communicate with West Sound further, Jane. We are trying to find opportunities for these young Burnsians. Thank you.
And I will gladly associate myself with Jane's comments there. Jane Brown, that's not the first time you've taken the words right out my mouth.
Oh, sorry.
So, events. The report from E. McIntyre on events has already been issued, but I believe that we have some additions, Ian.
Welcome to Dumfries, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. President. We're back in Dumfries this year, really on the tail of a highly successful conference last year. We're delighted to be back. We felt that there was still some of the Burns story that was undiscovered the last time, so we decided to come back. I need to say that the hotel have been superb to deal with on both occasions. Can I single out Margaret Ann? There are others who have helped me greatly, but can I single out Margaret Ann for praise? Margaret Ann has been absolutely sound. She's calm, she's unflappable, she sorts me out when I rant down the phone. So thank you, Margaret Ann, for making my job very, very easy. So I hope you'll enjoy what we have in our programme this year. We've got some different events for you to enjoy. Next year, we're delighted to say that we'll be back in another part of the world where Burns is renowned. We'll be in Irvine next year, and I know that we've had previous conferences there, and Irvine has a lot to offer in terms of the Burns experience. For 2025, we have something under wraps that is potentially very, very exciting, but for kind of confidential business reasons I can't disclose at the moment, but we are having chats with an organisation about the 2025 conference, and as soon as we've got more news on that and we've got things firmed up, we certainly will let you know. But it's looking, we're looking to move things forward in a very exciting way. I'm sorry I'm being very cryptic here, but it's very much under wraps at the moment. Happy to take any questions.
Angus.
Just wait in the mic, Angus, please. Aye, thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Angus. We certainly will be reaching out, and thanks for the offer of help.
Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
Any other questions? Ian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the work that you have been doing, and Margaret Ann on the events committee. Next report is from marketing, Mark Sherland. It has also been published, but again there are some additions. Mark?
I'll move the microphone myself first. Thanks so much. Well, as has been said, there is a report in the in your pack, but there are a few kind of marketing is one of those things that doesn't stand still. So there's a few kind of updates that I want to just run through. One is a very quick update on the first edition Summer Festival, which was held in July this year. First of all, to thank all of those people who took part in it, who visited, and who made it such a success. It really was a tremendous week of events and activities. And I can report that it made over £2,000 profit at the end of the week. In addition to that, we had a lot of shop sales, so as a merchandising guy, I was very happy about that as well. We had £330 worth of merchandise items that were sold as part of that £2,000. You'll note in your catalogue and in your pack that you have a catalogue for the shop that's out there, so even if you don't get a chance to see us during the weekend, there's a form to fill in. You can book your items that you want sold, you want to buy, and we'll get that all sorted for you. So please make sure you do that, and please visit us at the shop. Eric and I are looking forward to seeing your smiling faces and even more your readies for the cash. So there's a lot of new items in the stock, including things like new cufflinks to a new design. There's new things like the aprons, some really wonderful aprons, which, if you look at the catalogue, you'll find that we have a coterie of beautiful ladies who are wearing the aprons. And I've been asked by Lily Budgell to make sure that I mention that it has pockets in the front of it, because she felt that was now, we also do a very natty phone cover, so if you haven't got one of these, please speak to either Jane or to myself or Neil or to Eric Budgell, all of whom have purchased one, so we can get that organised for you as well with your own name on it, so that's something we can do. I am always looking for new items to be added to the stock, so if you have ideas of things that you think are missing from the stock right now, please let me know, and if we can, we will try and source them and we'll try and add them. The stock in the shop is dramatically different from what it was a couple of years ago, and I'm sure you'll see that when you take a wee look. One of the things that I've ended up being responsible for is the mural at the end of the headquarters building. I kind of have a kind of rolling responsibility for different things, and we held a process with the East Ayrshire Council to sort out an artist for the work to be done. And if you look at the far corner there, you'll see a painting by the artist who has been selected from 30 plus candidates who came forward when the option was made available. This is not going to be the painting that's going to be on the gable end, but it's an idea of the work that this man does, and he donated this lovely painting to us, and that will be in the headquarters building very soon. You will be able to see from the newsletter, which I've taken on the responsibility for, that the newsletter is looking a bit different from what it used to look like. Mike Duguid did a fantastic job with the newsletter for over 10 years, and it's got to be said that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants when I took this on. But we are moving it in a slightly different direction. One of the things I am looking for are for advertisers to go into it, because that's one of the ways in which we cover our costs. And in the same way as the first edition festival made a profit, I want this to make a profit. Okay, that's not just what it's about, but it's used what it does. And you will see on the back of it our ambassadors and our sponsor, Annandale Distillery, has a full-page advert on every edition. Other things that I'm responsible for are the lectures, and as you all know, those of you who have taken part in the lectures are of a very high quality, and I'm pleased to say that we'll be running forward from October onwards with a new series of once-a-month lectures on Zoom, so anybody anywhere in the world can link in and participate. I think that's really all I need to say. If you've got any questions, I'm more than willing to take them.
Are there any questions for Mark?
I'm getting off like that as well. Most unusual.
Mark, once again, thank you very much for all the work that you do for the Federation. Now, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to welcome past President Bill Dawson here to the conference. Bill, it is great to see you, really great to see you. And I'm sure I speak for every single member of the Robert Burns World Federation when I say that. Bill, would you like now to come up for the editor and also the archivist? Bill's reports have been published, but he does have the odd edition, and afterwards I will take any questions. But please give a great big round of applause for Bill.
Thank you very much for your introduction, President Allen. You add to my hubris endlessly. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for your warm appreciation and welcome. I have an update to my report as published. The second part of our semi-annual journal, number 132.2, will publish this coming week. The online edition should be available from Wednesday, with the hard copy journal following around the end of the week. Indeed, copies may be dropping through your UK mailboxes Friday or Saturday, overseas members shortly thereafter. Other than that, my report is as published, but I can take questions if there are any.
Any questions for Bill in terms of editor of the Burns Chronicle? Thank you. And archivist Bill?
My archivist report is as published, but I will answer, I'll attempt to answer any questions that arise.
Any questions about the
For
archive?
the archive. No, I'm getting off
No.
lightly as everyone else.
Oh, no, not too lightly.
No, it's fine.
Jane?
We wanted initially for the library to what are you getting on that? There's still meetings that we wanted.
There is some way to go with the library. I haven't been down for a few weeks, but there is still books to add. And before I put out a shout for specifics, I need to take stock of what we've got and what our abilities are. But I'll certainly be back in touch, and I'll possibly put in something through the vision to let everyone know where we are with things.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And Bill, in terms of your editorship of the Chronicle, thanks for everything you've done over the years for that particular journal, because it is a gem, and thanks for the work you do in our archive. Membership is myself, is as published, but I do have one small addition to it. Generally speaking, new members are accepted by the board on your behalf, but since this is the AGM, we can actually put a new membership to you just now, which has only come in the last couple of days, and it's from Phil Smith, who some of you will know from Sarasota in Florida. I will happily propose her.
I will second.
Jane was straight in there to second her. Is there anyone otherwise minded to have Phil Smith as a member of the Robert Burns Law Federation? There we go. Thank you. Lifelong learning. Grace McKelvey is currently at a wedding, although they'll be here tonight for dinner. They'll be Skyping down that road to get here. It's as published, but there is one addition. Can I take that? There we go. I'm going to have to sit down to get the mic and read this. Eyesight is not what it used to be. Grace says, I know you'll be up to your eyes with arrangements and preparations for the conference, but I would be grateful if you'd share the information with the conference. Lifelong learning. I submitted an application on the 1st of September 2023 for £18,750 to Age Scotland Grassroots Dementia Fund. This funding is for the memories are made of this box of buns and would cover training, resources, printing, design and production of the box for all the Scottish-based Burns clubs within RBWF. This project would start 2024 and we should know the outcome by the end of November. I had also submitted an application to Ayrshire Wellbeing for All Fund, and the application has successfully proceeded to the next stage. This is a decision event held in Kilmarnock on Sunday 1st of October from 10 AM to 1 PM, with all applicants attending to promote their project. I would be extremely grateful if I could have some volunteers to join me planning the event and help on the day. That is Sunday the 1st of October from 10 to 1 in Kilmarnock. Online voting for the budgeting funding will be available from Monday the 11th of September. The funding would support running the Memories Are Made of this project. in RBF headquarters and provide people living with dementia in Kilmarnock access to sessions using the evocative words of Robert Burns to stimulate conversation, memories and reminiscences. Please could you let me know if you would be available to represent the Federation in Kilmarnock. If I am unable to get representations, then it's unlikely that the application will proceed. If you are in the area, or indeed if you're further afield and you just think that you would like to go and to assist Grace, this is an incredibly worthy project. Scottish Opera, when Polly and I used to work there in the education department, there was a project about dementia and stimulating dementia sufferers through singing old songs. And the results were spectacular. And this is exactly the same idea. And it's no stretch of the imagination to say that there are people in this room who will eventually suffer from that terrible affliction. So I think this is a wonderful project, and I'm so proud of RBWF for actually beginning this project. So if there is anyone who would help Grace in planning that event and actually being there, it shows the judges how much it is appreciated by this particular organisation.
That's very good.
Sponsorship. The report is from Neil McNair. It has been published, but Neil has some additions. Do you want to do it there?
I'll do it here.
Yeah.
Same additions as last year. Tomorrow you're going to Annandale, some of you are going to Annandale. Please spend freely. They are our principal sponsor, and we need all the support from them that we can get, and we need to support them. When you go back to your clubs, ask your club secretary if he can organise a whisky tasting for your club. Annandale will come and do that, either physically at your premises, or they can also do it online if you wish. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Neil in terms of sponsorship? Then we move on to Director at Large from Peter. Peter's report has been published, but he does have some additions, and afterwards we will take any questions for him. Do you want to go there?
Yeah, I've got some notes. Okay. Oh, brilliant, eh? Good afternoon, everybody, and I'll just move this microphone and get it started. Do you know what, friends? I scan this room and I look around and I see people that got me into Burns. Good people. And when I came to ask for help with my degree students, with my wife, everybody came and they gave their time, they gave their effort, they gave their knowledge. And that's what we do as Burnsians. We actually help each other. But I am absolutely passionate, and I beat the drum on this, that we really need to engage the 24 to 35 age group if we are going to survive. And I see people nodding their heads. Beth Kerr does an absolute outstanding job with the schools. And you see the quality of these young people and their knowledge of Burns. They're able to speak, they're able to recite, it's outstanding. But when they either go on to higher education or further education, they kind of fall off the edge. They don't join clubs. And that is the challenge that we actually face. Now, this ties in nicely because I only saw Grace's additional comments. So, of this last couple of weeks, this Grace's project has been an absolute boon, because I've actually been approaching the principals of West College Scotland, University of West College Scotland, and the principal of West College Scotland on a project that's linked to what we talked about on this suffering of dementia. With people, at some point, they will actually lose faculties. Now, I think this is a great opportunity for two reasons. Because the two principals said to me, Pete, we're really going to struggle with this because there's going to be industrial action, there's going to be problems. However, when I mentioned the dementia project, that was the game changer. And the plan is that we use the young students to use their skills in recording, that they are very good at a high professional standard, to curate evidence, stories of recordings at a very good professional standard from people like yourself in the room. And that's where we're going to go, because these young people doing higher national programmes, they can light, they can edit, they can record. So what we're actually going to get is very good, high quality recordings of this. So this was a game changer. And then they could see the value in their institutions being linked to the Robert Burns World Federation. They could see the value of the marketing. They could see the human value of them coming together and actually supporting this great project. Grace has done an outstanding job on this, absolutely outstanding, because her energy, and we spoke about this a year today at this very conference, and she walked the talk and followed it through. But we can see, folks, as we're being broadcast across the globe here for those that want to choose, and that is the power of using technology. And these people outside there, they're giving up their time to come here. The lad that's doing the broadcast has got to be back at the BBC tonight to cover the Scotland game, and he decides he will come here to do this broadcast to help us, because he believes in what we're trying to do. Okay. Margaret Ann gave me a very good wee comment, and she said to me, and it stuck with me, she says, in this world, folks, if you can be anything, be kind. And she's a very kind lady. And Mark Twain, the great American writer, he admired Burns greatly, and he said, kindness is the language the blind can see and the deaf can hear. So conference, we have the skills, we have the ability in this room. When I call upon you to come and do your wee bit in a professional studio, I'm hoping you're not going to let me down. Okay? We have the skills, we have the ability. And somebody says, oh Pete, I can't do this. I'm not very good. Nonsense. You think about it. Imagine granddad, granny, uncle, auntie standing and having, for the record, a recording of them doing a piece of Burns or singing a song for all time. And years when their grandkids come around, they'll say, that was my grandpa, that was my gran, that was my uncle. That's what we're trying to curate. So conference, let's do it. If you've been asked, come and help. Nobody will be turned away, honestly. You're doing something for the greater good, and you just never know, you might just trigger a memory in some poor sufferer that has dementia. Okay, and I know, talking to Ian today, there are Burnsians in this room already doing this. They're already doing this. So we need to gather that evidence, get it recorded and get it done. Okay, so thank you very much.
Obviously he's very confident that there won't be any questions for him. Are there any questions? Go on, somebody ask one, go on. Are there any questions for him? Oh, you'll have to go back to the microphone, Peter.
Okay. For you, Beth, anything.
Right, Alan, thank you very much for that, Pete. It's not so much a question as an observation. Alan and I had this discussion on a social environment this last week.
Yes.
And what I was like
called the Kempock Bar.
Is that this idea that you've got, this room here is here because it's been a dozen generations following through the love of Burns and forming the clubs.
Yeah.
The world is doing it. Look around the room. We are the young people. We are the young people coming through. And I'd love to hear Beth's presentation earlier. How do we make sure that young people are coming through in the same way as we've come through for previous generations to support this great man all around the world, to promote him and his culture across the world? Because I just hear that the world is changing dramatically more than ever before. How, in your view, as a young people, perhaps going to join club the way that we perhaps did? So, are we going to join later in life? How can we make sure that happens? Because I think there's this concern, and perhaps it's not shared around the room, that this concern that clubs have won, the other Buns clubs are represented here, to actually far away from the generations go on. And that does concern me a little bit. Because no matter where I go in the world, one of the things is that people remember Scotland Forum, and people admire Scotland Forum is Robert Burns and his work. They know how many times his work's been translated into how many different languages. I need the confidence really in my heart that it's going to continue. And Alan and I had this conversation last week in a bar in Europe. And we probably never got to a final answer. I'd love to hear from you around the room on that.
Okay. Thank you, John. Do you know what, John? I'm going to ask people. I'm just take a wee poll here. Put your hands up if you joined a Burns club in your teens. Okay, thank you. In your 20s. Thank you. In your 30s. In your 40s. In your 50s. In your 60s.
I think that's the point you were making last week, Alan, wasn't it?
I think that yes, there are less people joining clubs. Full stop. There's less people joining bowling clubs, golf clubs. There's less people joining the Masons, the Rotary, etc., etc. Young people aren't joiners, but I certainly know from my own experience. I've joined things when I kind of got settled in life. In my early 40s, that's when I started joining everything that I've joined, and when my wife started not to see me in the evening. And I wonder if that hasn't changed at all. Actually, I'm not quite sure, but it's just interesting just to look at that wee straw poll. Very few people here, and obviously you are the stalwarts, you are the diehards. Very few people here joined in their 20s, some in their 30s, most in their 40s. So I don't know if that helps you at all, John.
It gives me some comfort, Alan. I know you told me this last week as well. And that poll you've just done actually kind of helps to strengthen the point you were making. So I just hope that we don't have.
Oh, we all hope.
To worry about.
We all hope. I think that's absolutely.
President Allen, can I just answer his question very shortly? Can I tell you how the project's going to work? It's called moral bribery. Okay, it's moral bribery. And what these young students will get for their skills is we'll give them expenses and we'll give a fee, because we've been fundraising and we've done a lot of fundraising so we can pay for the hire of the rooms, the studios, etc. at a very competitive rate. I'll tell you what's going to happen is they're going to get a lot of publicity, the education sector, and this is going to take off. Okay, that's how it's going to work. Let me tell you one wee story. I went to see one of the lecturers, and he said to me, he said, when I told him what it was all about, and he said to me, my grandpapa had dementia, and he said, and he got quite emotional, and he turned round and he says to me, I tell you what, Pete, he says, I'm going to help you. He says, I'll get my students to help you to do that. Do you know, conference, there's a great saying, if you want somebody to like you or like your organisation, ask them to do you a favour. It's science. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. And again, the position of Director at Large is basically a position whereby you're given free rein to have a look at the organisation and see what you think you can help. Peter has a certain set of skills, and I think he's been putting those skills to very good use on behalf of Robert Burns and the Robert Burns World Federation. So thank you, Peter, for that. Good. We come now to international reports, and delighted to say that we have Paul Kennedy here. Paul's report has been published, but I believe that Paul has the following additions. And then we'll take any questions for Paul later.
Thanks, and it's so great to be here. I didn't think this was going to happen. If you see my report, I think it starts out with saying, sadly, I will not be at the conference this year. But I did make it. I brought one of my colleagues with me, Leo Duncan, all the way from New Jersey. Robert Burns Association of North America is doing well. It's got a number of new clubs as well, one of which is the South Jersey Celtic Society, my home club. And we have, Grace will like to know this, but she's not here. We have signed up to make an annual donation to the Alzheimer's Project. So I think that, that's going to help some.
Yeah, thank you.
Other than that, it's published. Thank you.
Paul is also very, very sure that no one's going to ask him any questions. Is there anyone from North America who'd like to ask Paul a question? Is there anyone who'd like to ask a question? Okay, thank you. Ronnie O'Byrne. Oh, sorry.
You're not getting away, Paul. Where's my microphone, Jim?
You not come again.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't keep a good boy down. How do you think we can improve relations with North America? What can we do? People in this room, how can we get involved? How can we strengthen the bond? We are a world federation. What ideas do you think you have, Paul? You've come in, you're on a director. What do you think?
It's a great question. I think we're going that direction right now. We've had 2 North American presidents, I think, in the past, so you are becoming more world. I think that we have people from Portugal now. The more out there we get, I think, is great. But North America-wise, I think we're doing everything we need to do. We're working more closely with Urbana, which I think is important. So, that's, other than that, I think.
Other than that, thank you very much.
Keep the invitations coming.
Yep.
Thank you. Ronnie O'Byrne's report is as published without any alterations or additions. Are there any questions regarding the report about Canada? No. And I'll say at this point that Ronnie, after many years' service to the Federation, is retiring from the post of Director for Canada. And I'd like to publicly thank Ronnie for all the work that he has done on behalf of Canada and the Robert Federation. John Menzies, the report from the Pacific Rim is as published without any additions. Are there any questions? No? Thank you. Then we come to the confirmation of office bearers by acclamation. Now, when you become Junior Vice President of the Robert Burns World Federation, it's automatic that you become Senior Vice President and President in reality. However, I'm going to ask you all to say aye if you agree to these people. If you want to shout no, are we out of the room right now? The President of the Robert Burns World Federation for 2023 to 2024 is Mr. Neil McNair. Say aye. Aye. Thank you. Are there any nays? Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. The Senior Vice President of the Robert Burns World Federation for 23-24 is Mr. Peter Pringle. Say aye. Aye. Any nays? The Junior Vice President of the Robert Burns World Federation for 23-24 is Jean Abdul Rahim. Say aye. Aye. Any nays? Jean, would you like to come and join us here at the top table? And in fine tradition, Jean, take your seat, because I'm just about to let you... There you go. She's at the top table, and now, Jean, would you like to go to the microphone and say a few words? The new Vice President, Jean Abdul Rahim.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I am honoured to accept the position of Junior Vice President for the Robert Burns World Federation. 23 years ago, I joined the Federation, and never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be sitting in the lineup here today. I will give 100% of my time and energy to the role.
Thank you, Jean. We all look forward to working with you and look forward to what you bring to the board. Thank you very much. Congratulations. We move on to our international directors. The international directors are as follows. American director is Paul Kennedy.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The Canadian director is past President Henry Kearney.
Aye.
Any nays? The Pacific Rim director is John Menzies. Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? There we go. Now we come to the election of conveners. However, for these particular posts, and these are posts which must be elected, the following positions had only one nomination. And therefore, I will declare the applicants elected by acclamation. Literature convener, Peter Pringle. Heritage convener, John Hanna. Events convener, Mark Sherland. And schools convener, Beth Kern. I'm taking those en bloc. Say aye.
Aye.
Any
Maybe.
nays?
Maybe.
Any nays? There we go. Congratulations, all of you. The following posts are appointed by the board. The editor of the Burns Chronicle is Bill Dawson.
Aye.
It's appointed by the board, you don't need to say that, but anyway, Bill, aye. Okay. The archivist is also past President Bill Dawson. Our finance director is Ken Dalglish, and our membership director will be Jim Abdul Rahim. They've been appointed by the board, but it'd be quite nice, by acclamation, taking them en bloc if I heard a big aye. Any nays? Thank you. Now, she was just elected as a member only about 15 minutes ago. But since Peter is now moving to literature, it leaves a hole for director at large. And I'm proposing that Phil Smith is accepted as the director at large. Now, it is an appointment by the board, but again, we're here at the AGM, we're open and transparent. Can I have an aye for that? Aye. Any nays? Thank you. Now, the office bearers will individually give their oath of Federation membership. So, Neil.
I give my oath that I will uphold the honour of the Robert Burns World Federation. I will educate with integrity, promote equitably, and will celebrate honestly. The Scots language and our culture, the life and works of Robert Burns, and promote equality amongst brethren and sistershood.
Thank you, Neil.
Mike, easy? Okay.
And now, Senior Vice President Peter.
I give my oath that I will uphold the honour of the Robert Burns World Federation. I will educate with integrity, promote equitably, can't say that, and I will celebrate honestly the life and works of Robert Burns, the Scots language, and our culture of universal brother and sisterhood. Thank you.
And our Junior Vice President, Jean.
I give my oath that I will uphold the honour of the Robert Burns World Federation. I will educate with integrity, promote equitably, and will celebrate honestly the life and works of Robert Burns, the Scots language, and our culture of universal brother and sisterhood.
So we come to any other competent business. I have some business, and the first is, as outgoing president of the Robert Burns World Federation, is to give the Federation a gift. The Lord Lion asked in November last year if the Federation would like to take part in the 350th anniversary of the Public Register of all arms and bearings in Scotland. And I said yes, because we are a Scottish organisation which actually has a worldwide presence, and we do have our own coat of arms. However, to take part in that festival, we had to have a banner with our arms on it, and we didn't. So I thought to myself, well, I'm not missing an opportunity like this for the Robert Burns World Federation to be involved in this festival celebrating 350 years of Scottish history. And so I had the coat of arms of the Robert Burns World Federation created into a banner. It's not actually a banner, really, in heraldic terms. It's a gilfannon, is what you actually call this. But I carried it with pride, wearing the chain in the wee procession that we had, and I'm now delighted to present this to the new president of the Robert Burns World Federation on behalf of the Federation. This is our banner.
Wow. Lovely.
This banner will go to the headquarters. I'll leave it up to Margaret to see where in the headquarters it will go, but it's actually a lovely thing, and it does mean that should we, and if you read your history books about Burns, you'll find that Burns was represented at every single pageant and procession in the 19th and early 20th century. Should we have another one, it gives us something to carry and be properly represented. So, Mr. President, could I ask you please to come and accept this on behalf of the Federation?
Much pleasure in accepting this from you, Alan, on behalf of the Federation. Thank you. I take it it will go on display in Kilmarnock?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm sure it's not going to stand there.
Fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Yeah.
Crash.
Secondly, my kind of final act as president is to tell you about the presidential appeal which I had passed by the board just last week. If you remember, a couple of years ago when Mark was president, he launched a presidential appeal for the coat of arms of Robert Burns himself. This is the coat of arms of the Federation, but the coat of arms of Robert Burns himself to be granted by the Lord Lion, and it was. There are 180,000 people arriving in Scotland by cruise ships every year, and they arrive in Greenock at the new Ocean Terminal building, which was opened only a couple of weeks ago. Research shows that it was from that particular dock where that is now built that Robert Burns began his West Highland tour on the 27th of June 1787, where he went to Dunoon and from Dunoon to Inverary, where he left a rather unflattering remark for the Duke of Argyll, who wouldn't let him into the castle because he had another event going on that particular day. I spoke to Peel Ports, who are Clydeport and who own the land in Peel.
Yes.
You were right,
Yeah.
Peelport, it looks as if they will give us some land to put the statue on. The statue is expensive. The statue is very expensive. And I don't expect the Robert Burns World Federation to pay for the statue. However, we have so far been handed a cheque for £25,000 and we have been pledged another £100,000. There are several businessmen in Edinburgh who are going to club together and put another donation in. I suspect the final bill will be somewhere in the region of £400,000 for this statue. And that seems a frightening amount. But the message I have been given by everyone is you need to make the impression that you are trying. It doesn't matter, in a sense, whether it's £5,000 that comes from Burns clubs, whether it's £500. The point is that we need to show that we have been doing something. It's unthinkable that the national statue of Robert Burns will not have RBWF's name on it. So I'm launching this appeal to clubs and to members for donations, as small as you like, to this particular appeal, so that in the end of it we can have the name of Robert Burns World Federation on the back of the statue. The statue will be a 10-foot bronze on a 12-foot stone podium, and it has been designed by the King's Sculptor and Ordinary in Scotland, Alexander Stoddart. And Alexander Stoddart follows in a long line of the King's or even Queen's sculptors. So there'll be more details coming out to you about that, and pictures of the maquette, which has been created by Professor Stoddart. And I am commending that to you because I think it's a great project that 180,000, projected 250,000 eventually, people will come to Scotland and the first thing they'll see is Robert Burns. And the last thing they'll see when they get back on the boat is Robert Burns for Auld Lang Syne. Thank you. I have one other announcement before I say my own thanks, and that is that on Sunday after the service there will be a lunch in the Globe. Now, I think round about 40 of us went last year and it was absolutely fantastic. The Globe have bent over backwards to provide some great fare for us. It is not too late to book. You can just simply book online, but I don't think if you turn up, they'll have enough dinners for you. Margaret Ann sent out the link, but if there is anyone who hasn't got the link and who wishes to get the link, I'm sure Mark will give it, Margaret Ann will give it, Neil will give it, any of us would give it. If you wish to do that, book online for the lunch on Sunday in Burns' very own favourite house in the Globe here in the middle of Dumfries. And I can really, really recommend that to you. Jane?
Sorry, I was given the task to get as many names in up to... Sorry, I was given the task to get as many names as possible up to 4 o'clock today.
Right.
That was the kind of cut-off time for ordering the food in for the catering. So if there's anyone in the room that hasn't booked and wants to book, please tell me now and I'll phone them. Because 4 o'clock was the cut-off time.
Okay. Okay. So you've heard that from Jane.
Thank everybody. I got a lot of them at registration.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Jane. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, well, I stood here a year ago. I spoke about Colin Ray Brown, who's my personal hero in the Burns world. And I spoke about his achievements, and I said, there is no way that I, or in fact any of us, are ever going to achieve in the Burns world what Colin Ray Brown did achieve. So what I said was, I will do my very best, and I will give as much as I can that my circumstances allow me to do. I've so much enjoyed it. It's been absolutely fantastic. It's been a huge privilege. And it leaves me with the inescapable thought that you and people like you are responsible for Scotland being loved all over the world.
because you and people like you keep the name of Scotland's greatest cultural and national icon alive. Thank you for everything that you do. Go back to your clubs, reinvigorate them as much as you can. Talk about Robert Burns as much as you can. We'll carry on talking about him in the highest places in the land, at the Scottish Government. Anywhere that we can talk about Robert Burns, we will. Keep putting out that positive message, because he is loved and you are responsible for that. Thank you so much for the privilege.
Well done, sir.
Any other business? Yes.
It was very remiss of me. Professor David Thompson and Teresa Church are out of the country, and I should have put their apologies in. I apologise. He was meant to send me some plans and notes on the quarter, the Burns quarter that David's doing in Dumfries. It's behind the Globe. They bought the bakery and they're turning into what they call a Burns quarter. I've been on the online today and it's coming. I'll have it by tomorrow. If you please, I'll put it out by the shop. If everyone would look at the plans and his notes on it, the planning has been passed by Dumfries Planning Authority at long last. It's full of very exciting things that are going to be happening in the Burns quarter, and for somebody to bring that to Dumfries, to keep Burns alive in this area, is just absolutely amazing.
Fabulous.
So I hope you'll all look at the plans and the notes tomorrow. We'll put them up out by the shop for you to check. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other competent business? Then I will ask Neil McNair, the new president, for a vote of thanks.
Alan, you talked a few minutes ago about gifts, and you've given us freely of your gifts and talents over the last 12 months. You've given us your time, freely of your time. You've travelled all over the world promoting the Federation, and that's truly what the President is supposed to do. And unfortunately, in the last few years, some have not been able to do that. But you have taken the Robert Burns message to the four corners of the earth, and we thank you for that. You've got a strong sense of leadership and also what is right and wrong, and that's an essential part of what being a president and a chairman is. I'm following you. It will be a hard act to follow, if not an impossible act for me, but I have started singing lessons.
Oh no!
I'd like to thank my fellow directors for all the time that they commit in furthering the aims and objectives of the Robert Burns Federation. I'm not going to name them all, we've just heard their reports. I'd like to thank the team who made this weekend possible, Margaret Ann, Ian, Jane, and others who I've left out. Ian, thank you for the audio-visual equipment that you provided. I know I'll have missed people out, and I apologise for that. You are all included. Thank you for taking time out of your weekend to come here and be together and promote Robert Burns across the world. And at that, I would just like to say, can you all give yourselves a clap? Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Friends of the Poet, members, ladies and gentlemen, I now declare
Alan, before you declare it, could we thank the BBC people who've given up their time, and this broadcast will be online.
Absolutely. Well done. Let's also have a big thanks to the BBC people who have come here to record this for us, to make sure that this has gone all over the world, to clubs and societies everywhere. They've given up their time to come and do it. Let's give them a special thanks also. And I'm delighted now to declare the annual general meeting of the Robert Burns World Federation for 2023 closed.
Good job, good job.
Margaret Ann, brilliant. Thanks for all your hard work. For all your hard work.
Yeah, congratulations.